Here is your rewritten transcript without headings, clean, smooth, and formatted as a continuous documentary-style narration. I kept everything exactly as you wrote it, only improving flow, clarity, and tightening the storytelling while preserving your tone and message. It was the promised land. A sprawling, windswept canvas in the shadow of the San Francisco peaks. It was called Coyote Pass, and it was meant to be the future of the Brown family. For homes, a shared pond, a legacy for their 18 children. It was a dream of unity, of a final planting of roots after years of wandering. But what if that dream was a lie from the very beginning? What if the empty acres and silent pines weren't a sign of failure, but a sign of a meticulously executed plan? What if the land was never meant to be built upon at all? This is a deep dive into the Coyote Pass conspiracy, an examination of financial maneuvering so subtle, so patient, that it took place for years in plain sight. If you're ready to look past the reality show drama and study the financial chessboard underneath it, hit the like button and subscribe to Sister Wives Crew. We don't just watch the show, we decode it. Your support helps us dig deeper and bring you analysis you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's get back to the evidence. To understand this conspiracy, you first have to understand the motive. And the motive, like all powerful motives, comes down to two things: money and control. We have to travel back in time to the sun-drenched cul-de-sac in Las Vegas. There, the Brown family achieved a version of the American dream multiplied by 4. For large, separate homes side by side, each in a wife's name. This wasn't just a living arrangement. It was a financial reality. Mary had a home and equity. Janelle had a home and financial security. Christine had her sanctuary and its value locked in its walls. Robin, the newest wife, also owned her home, her own asset. They were a collective, yes, but they were also for distinct financial entities. Each wife had a tangible, sellable asset. Each had a degree of autonomy they'd never had in their old life in Leahy, Utah. The cul-de-sac represented 4 pillars of individual net worth for separate lifeboats. If the family ship went down, they could sell their homes, take their equity, and walk away. This was an unspoken safety net. But for a patriarch who demanded loyalty and control. For separate safety nets meant for potential point of defection. The Las Vegas setup, while prosperous for the family, was a strategic vulnerability for a man who wanted to command a fleet. So the goal became clear: how do you convince 3 financially independent women to voluntarily liquidate their biggest assets, cash out their lifeboats, and pour all of their savings into one single, indivisible pot, one that you and your favored wife ultimately control? You don't do it through force. You do it with a dream. You sell them a promised land. The move from Vegas to Flagstaff was presented under various narratives. The shifting Vegas housing market, a divine calling to Arizona's mountains, the desire for a better culture for their younger kids. These were the official reasons the stories crafted for the cameras and for the wives, who needed reassurance. But when viewed through a financial lens, these reasons evaporate like a desert mirage. Instead, the cold, calculated mechanics of financial consolidation emerge. The first step was liquidation. Selling for homes in a booming market unleashed a tidal wave of money, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions. This was the family's life savings transformed from physical, stable real estate into fluid cash. And cash can be moved, redirected, or controlled. Step 2 was sinking that cash into the opposite of their Vegas security. They needed something illiquid, difficult to divide. Something that would trap the equity and make it nearly impossible for any wife to cash out. What fits better than raw, undeveloped Arizona land? Coyote Pass wasn't just dirt. It was a financial vault. By purchasing it, Kody, often with Robin as his legal partner, transformed the family's liquid wealth into a singular, complex, undividable asset. The money wasn't gone. It was trapped. The wives traded their individual security for fractional, unenforceable interest in a shared dream, a dream that, according to this theory, was never meant to come true. The proof lies not in one confession, but in a years-long pattern of deliberate delay. This wasn't incompetence. It was strategy. Every obstacle, every argument, every excuse for not building reappears as a calculated move in a long game of financial attrition. The first obstacle: lot lines. The endless arguing over who got which plot looked like family dysfunction. Christine wanted a view. Janelle wanted space for a greenhouse. Kody obsessed over pond access. Mary was given an isolated plot that was a non-starter. A devoted patriarch committed to building for homes could have easily hired a surveyor and hashed out a fair plan. But that never happened. Instead, Kody used the lot lines to keep the wives in conflict. Every time he made one wife happy, he alienated another. It wasn't failure. It was engineering gridlock. The stalemate itself was the objective. Next came the cistern, the mythical underground water tank with an outrageous price tag. It was framed as an unforeseen barrier that halted all progress. But would a supposedly savvy businessman really buy rural land without checking utility access? Unlikely. The cistern became the perfect excuse, an all-purpose reason for why they couldn't build. It allowed Kody to perform frustration, to appear as a man thwarted by circumstances while the real plan marched forward. Then came the biggest emotional weapon of all, money. Despite earning six figures from the show and despite each wife's side income, Kody constantly insisted they didn't have money to build. Yet they had enough to buy $1 million house for Rob and Kody's legal home and his permanent residence. So while Christine drained savings to rent and Janelle lived in a trailer on the barren property, Kody and Robin lived comfortably. There was money but never for Coyote Pass. The resources were being funneled into a private household, not the promised shared dream. Perhaps the boldest delay tactic was Kody's sudden obsession with the one-house plan. After selling the dream of four homes for years, he switched to pushing a massive single mansion for all wives under one roof. He knew they would reject it. He counted on it. Pushing an impossible plan created another year of delay, while giving him the moral high ground to blame the wives for being divisive. When they refused to relive the nightmare of their old shared home in Lehi, it was manipulation dressed as revelation. But the deepest layer of the trap lies in the legal structure of Coyote Pass. The land was purchased with a web of ownership in which Kody's name appeared on every critical deed. Some parcels were in his and Janelle's names, some his and Christine's, some his and Robin's, but Robin, as the legal wife, had the strongest protections: joint tenancy, survivorship, the rights that come with legal marriage. The other wives, listed as tenants in common, had shares they couldn't easily sell or divide without Kody's cooperation. Imagine trying to sell your half of a dirt lot when the other owner refuses to participate. Nearly impossible. This legal setup ensured that the wives' equity was fractionalized and trapped, while Kody and Robin's control was consolidated and protected. The wives owned nothing they could access. Their money was in the land, but the land was in Kody's hands. This is how equity becomes a prison. And as the years dragged on, the psychological warfare took hold. Christine's dream of a home was used as leverage. Janelle's pragmatism was exploited until she was stranded in an RV. They were stuck in financial limbo, unable to move forward, unable to go back. Their savings dwindled. Their autonomy shrank. Their dependence on Kody increased. But then Christine escaped. Her leaving wasn't just emotional, it was financial warfare. She demanded her share back, forcing the first crack in the vault. Kody, panicked, treated her as a business partner defecting from a corporation, not a wife leaving a marriage. He attempted a breathtaking maneuver. He pressured Janelle to use her personal savings to buy out Christine's share. Janelle's money would go to Christine, but the land ownership would continue consolidating under Kody and Robin, tightening the trap. It was the clearest evidence of all. This wasn't about building a family compound. It was about retaining control of the asset at all costs. Janelle said no. That refusal was the second major fracture. She saw the trap for what it was, and she began her own escape, quiet, steady, inevitable. The conspiracy didn't collapse in a single moment. It unraveled slowly. But it did unravel. Christine peeled her financial life out of Kody's grip. Janelle followed. And the result is that the very asset Kody fought so hard to control became the anchor drowning the remnants of his plural marriage. The Coyote Pass conspiracy was never about building homes. It was about consolidating power. It was a calculated betrayal, years in the making, a quiet war fought with deeds, delays, equity, and emotional manipulation. And in the end, the only ones who escaped were the ones who realized the dream was never real.